Welcome up! Liberalism and populism are two political ideologies. If you don't know what political ideologies are, check this video. Liberalism is an ideology posing the liberty of individuals as the supreme value of a society, so political institutions are conceived in a way to maximize individual freedom while maintaining an ordered society. A major thinker representing liberalism is John Locke. If you want to know more about liberalism, check this other video. Populism is an ideology where ordinary people is believed to have superior moral values than the elite. The objective of populist parties is hence to oust the elite from institutions, allowing people to rule the country. A major thinker representing populism is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. If you want to know more about populism, check this last video. In this video, we're having a showdown between liberalism and populism. Coming up. Hello, I'm Understanding Politics, and in this channel I explain political theories and debates to students as well as curious and passionate people, just like you. Based on a viewer suggestion, I'm comparing liberalism and populism. Yet, to be clearer, I've decided to design the score point around 3 questions. These questions reflect on who's going to benefit from having one purely populist and one purely liberal party in power. Question 1. Which one is better for a liberal democracy? Well, as soon as you formulate the question, you already have a part of the answer. Liberalism is better for a liberal democracy because liberal democracies were created by liberalism. In a way, every ideology, different from liberalism, is not performing so good for the functioning of a liberal democracy. That's just plain logic. A purely populist party easily and soon loses track of what to do because often it does not lay out a plan. Purely populist parties expect that being honest and solving injustice is enough to run a country. It is not. You need to have a plan of who you are going to privilege in a society to be able to govern properly. Countries have limited resources and they have to decide how to allocate those resources, and you cannot simply please everybody, unless of course you colonize other countries or legalize slavery. That's it. The first point goes to liberalism. Question 2. Which one is better for you as an individual? It depends where you stand. Are you educated? You'll probably end up being frustrated by populist parties and not vote for them. Are you a businessman and you've done pretty well for yourself? You're probably gonna despise populist policies. Are you part of the working class, a pensioner, or member of some other form of less privileged social class? You are likely to benefit from populist policies in the short run. Again, this really depends on how the populist party is oriented. Watching my previous video on populism, you know that populism is a thin-centered ideology, which often bases its stances on some other ideology. This is also the case. Yet, if we are discussing a populist right-wing party, a poor immigrant or even refugee is likely not to like populist policies. Quite on the contrary, it may benefit liberal policies. Liberals usually do not take strong stances on immigrants, like most of nativist and extreme right parties. To simplify, following Rousseau, populists argue in favor of the general will, that is the will of the majority of the population. And that is why the second point goes to populism. Question 3. Which one is better for the economy and henceforth the country in the long run? This is another easy one and settles the game. Clearly liberalism. First and foremost because liberals invented the free market. A capitalist system revolves around liberal ideas. Populists may be more beneficial for the society overall, particularly if they align with socialist or social democratic stances on how wealth in the society should be distributed. Sadly, the major flaw of populism is being short-sighted. Populists often don't think ahead enough to evaluate the economic impact of their policies. A good example was Venezuela under Chavez and Maduro. Therefore, the point goes to liberalism. Yes, liberalism wins, but the game is rigged. The reason is that liberal democracies are conceived by liberalism. If you set the rules, you cannot lose. A liberal democracy is very often a situation where nobody gets entirely what he or she wants, but nobody is harmed by it. Liberal democracies cannot change things fast, because the system of checks and balances prevents politicians to overthrow or revolutionize the society. Liberal democracies are especially good in preserving the freedom of individuals, sometimes leading to immobilism. This form of immobilism causes frustration but saves you from various forms of authoritarianism. Populism stems from failures of liberal democracies, corruption scandals, and/or an unresponsive political elite. This ideology is the manifestation of a desire for direct democracies, where people can exercise their political will without mediation. If we had set the same match, liberalism versus populism, in a direct democracies, then populism would certainly have the upper hand. A last imagined scenario would be, what if we are talking of a populist/liberal versus a liberal party? In that case, yes, the populist/liberal party would have the upper hand, because we would expect the flows of both ideologies to be smoothed. Yes, this is not always the case. If you are looking for an example, the Moldovan Party of Action and Solidarity always pops up in my mind when I think about populists who are also liberals. Yet it remains to be seen how they will govern the Republic of Moldova. As usual, the lecture is over. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the video. You will find the sources in the references section of the video description. Thank you for watching. The major risk of populism and direct democracies is that a strong leader supported by the masses of people can impose the will of the majority on minorities, often leading to functioning democracies to autocracies. In a way, immobilism is then more desirable for individuals than effective action. I believe that the fear of liberals for populism was well exemplified by Alexis de Tocqueville in his Democracy in America, when he was talking about the tyranny of the majority. Yet, Alexis de Tocqueville never argued against populism, he simply argued against majorities. It goes as follows. So, what is a majority taken as a whole if not an individual who has opinions and, most often, interests contrary to another individual called the minority? Now, if you admit that an individual vested with omnipotence can abuse it against his adversaries, why would you not admit the same thing for the majority? Have men, by gathering together, changed character? By becoming stronger, have they become more patient in the face of obstacles? As for me, I cannot believe it, and the power to do everything that I refuse to any one of my fellows I will never grant to several. So when I see the right and the ability to do everything granted to whatever power, whether called people or king, democracy or aristocracy, whether exercised in a monarchy or a republic, I say the seat of tyranny is there, and I try to go and live under different laws. When a man or a party suffers from an injustice in the United States, to whom do you want them to appeal? To public opinion? That is what forms the majority. To the legislative body, it represents the majority and blindly obeys it. To the executive power, it is named by the majority and served it as a passive instrument. To the police are nothing other than the majority under arms. To the jury is the majority vested with the right to deliver judgments. The judges themselves in certain states are elected by the majority. However iniquitous or unreasonable the measure that strikes you may be, you must therefore submit to it or flee. What is that if not the very soul of tyranny under the forms of liberty?